Thanks so much, Ron. I appreciate you inviting me. Glad to share the stage with a lot of smart people doing a lot of interesting things. I know that and by the way, just a little background on me. I primarily focus on enterprises, and the last 5+ years that I've been with Google, that's included oil and gas, manufacturing, lots of industrial customers. But for the last couple of years, I've focused on retail customers. Something that I think is consistent across all of my enterprise customers is that they are trying to figure out how do they take advantage of the latest AI advancements. And I think that's a good question to ask. I'm going to give you Google's perspective on some of that today. So a lot of what I'm presenting, just to make sure everybody that's listening understands, is targeted toward enterprises who want to deploy this securely within their company. These are not necessarily consumer products. Some of them have a consumer version available, but the idea is that we know organizations are trying to figure out what does secure, safe, and really effective AI look like in our organization. Now, I think it's important to understand that the way employees work in enterprises today is more fragmented than ever before. So they have dozens of platforms they can use for analytics, for productivity, for customer relationship management, planning, human capital management, supply chain management, project and portfolio management, communications. All of these pieces come in, and there are different SaaS solutions. There are off-the-shelf solutions that are deployed in your data centers. In some cases, you have custom solutions. But the point is that the data you need as an enterprise to make decisions is distributed and fragmented across, in many cases, at least dozens, but in some cases, more than 100 different systems, which makes it hard to aggregate data in effective ways and make sure that you're working with the most current data across your enterprise to make decisions and do your analysis. So the way Google approaches this problem, I should say the way Google Cloud approaches this problem, comes from Google's roots. So Google looked at the internet early on, 25 years ago now that we started, and said, what if we could come up with a better way of first indexing the internet, but then understanding at a very human and a semantic level what our customers are actually looking for. So when somebody comes to the search bar, what do they want? So the first problem we solve for the enterprise is allowing you to keep your data where it is and establish connectors into your data. So you could think about this as a secure, role-based, access-aware way of indexing all of the knowledge you have in your enterprise across all of these different systems that we've been talking about, where your data has been fragmented. And then with that index and with our special understanding about semantics and understanding exactly what a user is looking for, search is the first part of Agentspace. So search is the idea that you get to say in natural language, this is what I'm looking for. And then using our index and understanding, we'll say you have some of that data in system X, some of that data in system Y, and so on. So the next piece of Agentspace is our generative AI. So in our case, that's Gemini built on top of it. When I get to agents, you'll see that we have a very, I would say, LLM agnostic point of view, because we know that there are a lot of different competitors in that space. We love Gemini, we think you will too, but in the first place, once you've done your search, we have Gemini on top of that search to give you a generative experience. And that generative experience allows you to start getting answers to questions, not just pointed to documents that allow you to start formulating your own answers. That means that our search finds the right information, our generative then synthesizes and summarizes and extracts data, insights and understanding from that data. And then in the end, you've got agents where we allow you to start taking actions against that data. So ultimately what we're saying is we want to help you find, understand, and act on the data that's in your enterprise. Now, from a marketing perspective, what does that look like? How do we kind of increase your return on ad spend? From a sales perspective, how do we decrease your sales cycle? How do we help you deliver software faster? Well, all of these things require a clear understanding of your data. So what are your customers buying? What are they not buying? Which ads are performing well? For the sales that close very quickly, what is it about those sales? What is it about those markets? What is it about the offerings? What is it about the pricing? Those are the types of questions that Gemini can answer once it sees all of the data that's in your enterprise. Now, one thing I will say is that Google's approach to AI from the beginning, and some people might say we were slower bringing products to market. I'm not sure that so from an insider's perspective, we definitely have been leading the charge as far as even inventing the transformer and publishing what made it possible for LLMs to exist in the way that they do today. But we have had a very enterprise and privacy security focused approach, which meant we didn't want to bring something to market until we could give you, the customer, the assurance that your data is your data. It will be secure. It will fit very safely into an enterprise space. So that's something important to recognize, is that for all of these gains that you can get, you get them without having to sacrifice the security and the kind of enterprise governance and policies that are on top of all of your enterprise systems. So Agentspace is our answer. Here's kind of a preview of what the Agentspace interface looks like. You'll notice that a lot like search, we have, kind of our primary component is just an open text field. So you get to go in and type in plain English whatever it is you're looking for. You can keep track of things you've searched for and AI conversations you've had in the past, agents that are available. Notebook LM is a huge component in Agentspace as we deliver it. And so when I say Notebook LM, it's kind of a celebrity. I assume most of you have had a lot of exposure to Notebook LM. If you haven't, go check out the consumer version. It's amazing. The enterprise version is even better because it allows you to do all of that analysis in a secure and safe way within the boundary of your enterprise. So the thing that part of the magic of Agentspace are the connectors, these integrations. So if you use Salesforce, if you use Box, Slack, Outlook, or any Office 365, Adobe for analytics, obviously any of the Google Cloud Suite, BigQuery for analytics, those types of things, certainly Workspace with all of our productivity tools. The first thing you do is create connectors that allow Agentspace to index all of that data. And then once you've indexed it, we help you find it, understand it, and act on it. So that's the basis of what Agentspace is. Earlier, I showed it as search, generative AI, and agents, but ultimately it is find, understand, and act. So another thing that's really interesting about Google's approach, so this isn't limited to Agentspace. If you go out and use our consumer gemini.google.com today, you have the same experience. It is multimodal from the start. So that means that instead of being a large language model, Gemini is a large model, which means we've trained it on not only billions of parameters that are the text that's available in common human knowledge, but billions of images, billions of videos, billions of audio files, and billions of files of every other conceivable type, whether it's Office documents or PDFs or sheets or different things. So you can search with a picture. For example, let's say you're in your warehouse and there's an item that you want more details on. You can actually take a picture of that item and submit that to Agentspace, and Gemini knows how to search based on an image and find all of the relevant data throughout your entire enterprise space. So that multimodality not only makes it easier to search, it opens up search avenues and pathways that didn't exist before. And it allows you to be so much more expressive in saying, here's an image and here's what this image means to me. And this is what I'd like to know more about my business as a result of it. By the way, I just want you to think for a minute about what that means in terms of competitive analysis. Imagine if you could take your competitors' 10K reports or certain images or things that are available in the public domain that are related to products or services your competitors are selling or offering, and use those to find information and insights among the data in your organization to become more competitive in a market. Anyway, lots of interesting opportunities there. So making sense of your data, obviously you get to say, what are questions? For example, what are the top revenue drivers is this example. This particular one is Notebook LM. And one of the features that people love in Notebook LM is the ability to create a podcast. So for example, I know that a number of my customers will use it this way. If they've got analysis that needs to be performed, let's say they want to review all the 10Ks for the past year as they're getting ready to put out statements for the next quarterly earnings, or competitive analysis, they will bring all of that data into Notebook LM, ask the questions that they need about it, and then create a podcast that they can listen to on their commute into the office. And that podcast will bring them up to speed in a very conversational way on all of the details in the documents that they're analyzing. So Notebook LM is a really interesting way of interacting with data. It's also interesting because it allows you to create a fence or a boundary around the specific data you want to use in your analysis. So build, deploy, and access agents. Agents is the third part of this. There are a lot of different ways that people are thinking about agents. We have ways of, so obviously Google, software engineers have been developing agents. Those are available in Agentspace. You can build your own custom agents in two ways. We have a no-code agent builder that's built into Agentspace. So any employee that wants to describe how an agent should work and what that agent should do can build their own agent that will take action on their behalf in Agentspace. Your developers and engineers can also build custom agents that go deep into how they interact within your organization. One example of this that is popular in retail right now is to look at not just an agent to find and summarize information, but imagine if you had an agent that would go out and look at all of your customer reviews or your customer support interactions for the day, identify which ones needed a follow-up, and then actually create records in a ticket or case system for somebody to proactively follow up with them. So the idea that now an agent can do that work and take an action like creating tickets, creating cases, creating email outreach, and so on, in very custom and personalized ways. It's a very powerful way of thinking about what agents can do. And by the way, if you're in manufacturing or industrial, there are very similar things that happen. You have human processes today that are creating records for follow-up, creating maintenance records, and so on. And if those can be automated through the use of agents and Google's multimodal capability of understanding images and videos and so on, that's a very powerful way of looking at how you can kind of modernize and bring kind of acceleration to your business, right? It's not limited to just searching and understanding data anymore. So I think we're coming up close to time. So I'm going to skip through some of these. Obviously, search is a big piece of this. And if you didn't notice at the beginning of the deck here, that my email address is cloudadvice@google.com. Feel free to email me if you want more detail on any of these slides that we're kind of skipping over. But you get to choose the sources, you get to see the actual reference material, and you get the generative kind of summaries and output from the conversational way that you interact with your data through search. So you're now searching for answers rather than searching for data. Agents are a really powerful way. So I already kind of hinted at this. There are Google-built agents, there are no-code agents, there are high-code agents, and partner agents available through Marketplace. It's an entry point for your employees. They can come in, build their own agents. Let's see. I did want to get to, the deep research agent is a really popular agent because it allows you to take advantage of Gemini's thinking mode so that it's doing more than just generating a summary. It's actually expanding what you asked for until it feels like it has a full and complete kind of a comprehensive context around what it is you're trying to actually solve or discover. So deep research is a really compelling agent that's built into Agentspace, and one that gets a lot of play among my customers. Idea generation, obviously, our business. So here's the last thing I wanted to get to, and then I'll leave a couple of minutes for questions if there is any time, is that Google has published a couple of agent frameworks. One is Agent Development Kit. This is open source. You can find it on GitHub today. We've also published GenKit. These play well with multiple LLMs. So our Agent Development Kit is not exclusive to Gemini. You can use it with Llama, you can use it with Claude, and you can use all of those in Google Cloud. The idea being that agents should be thought of more as action takers. And we've designed the frameworks and the ways to not only build locally, but then scale to enterprise scale in a way that's secure and reliable and fast. And so that's what Agent Engine is. Wherever you build your agent, Agent Engine is a fully managed way of deploying those and then making them available to your enterprise, whether or not you use Agentspace. But Agentspace makes it easy for any user, just regular business user, non-technical user, to immediately begin interacting with those agents.
But I'm going to ask Seth, who's worked on Wall Street for some of the major banks, to ask his question related to security.
Yeah.
So actually, hi. So yes, I actually worked for some major banks, but I'm now working for a manufacturing company a company that owns a lot of manufacturing companies. I was just curious, when you talk about the no-code agent development, how do you put protections around the data to make sure that only the right data is being accessed and is not shared out when users are developing those agents?
Yeah, that's a great question, Seth. So the way Agentspace works, and Agentspace connectors in particular, is as an enterprise user, I log into Agentspace and use it with my identity, my corporate identity. So think single sign-on there. The next thing that we do is, as we're indexing these sources, we're indexing them in an identity-aware way. So if I come and search for something and you search for something, and let's say we have different levels of access to backend systems, Agentspace is aware of that. And not only will it not surface search results that I wouldn't have access to with my identity, it also will not include that in any generative results. So you and I may see different responses and different sets of data across our enterprise for the exact same search query because we have different levels of access. So whatever role-based access controls and governance you have in place, Agentspace simply builds on top of that to observe it. So those are all preserved. Does that answer your question?